In a peaceful suburban neighborhood lined with neatly maintained homes and quiet streets, one property stood out for a very special reason. Tucked behind the house was a beautiful stock pond, calm and undisturbed, a place that had brought years of comfort and tranquility to its owner. Through every season, the pond reflected the changing sky, attracted birds and wildlife, and added a natural beauty that made the property feel alive. The homeowner, a man who took enormous pride in his land, cared deeply about that pond. To him, it wasn't just a decorative feature. It was part of the soul of his home. He spent endless weekends tending the shoreline, clearing debris, and making sure the water stayed clean, balanced, and healthy. What he never imagined was that this peaceful retreat would suddenly become the focus of a bitter dispute with the local Homeowners Association. Before long, the very existence of the pond would be challenged, turning a quiet property into the center of a growing neighborhood controversy. This is a story about persistence, discovery, and uncovering the truth hidden beneath appearances. One cool autumn morning, an official-looking envelope arrived in the mail. The moment he saw the Homeowners Association seal stamped across the front, he sensed it wasn't good news. Inside was a formal notice containing a direct order. According to the HOA, the stock pond violated community regulations and would need to be drained immediately. He stared at the letter in complete disbelief, frustration building with every line he read. How could something so natural, so harmless, suddenly be labeled a problem? He read through the notice again and again, hoping for some reasonable explanation, but the document was packed with vague legal wording and bureaucratic language that answered nothing. A few days later, several HOA representatives arrived at the property carrying clipboards and wearing stern expressions. Without much conversation, they began walking around the pond, carefully inspecting the area as if they had already made up their minds. Their attitude was cold and unwavering. Standing there watching them, the homeowner felt anger and injustice growing stronger inside him. This pond wasn't damaging anything. If anything, it improved the property and benefited the area around it. But he also knew fighting the HOA would not be easy. Determined to understand why they were targeting the pond and unwilling to surrender without answers, he started investigating the situation himself. He began paying much closer attention to how the property behaved during storms, especially after heavy rainfalls. Then, during one particularly intense downpour, he noticed something unusual. While nearby roads started collecting standing water, and even sections of the HOA's parking lot began flooding, his own property stayed surprisingly dry. He stood outside watching rainwater rush down the gradual slopes of the land and flow straight toward the pond. Instead of overflowing, the pond absorbed the incoming water like a natural basin. Its water level rose steadily under the pounding rain, yet the banks held firm without spilling over. That was the moment everything clicked. The pond wasn't simply decorative after all. It served an important purpose. It was functioning as a critical drainage system for the surrounding area, collecting excess runoff and preventing flooding from spreading downhill into lower sections of the neighborhood, including the HOA's own parking lot. Realizing this could change everything, he immediately started documenting what he observed, taking photographs and recording evidence whenever storms rolled through. He began keeping detailed records, carefully documenting every rainfall, measuring water levels, and noting exactly how the pond responded during each storm. Determined to build a solid case, he filled notebooks with observations and even drew simple diagrams explaining the flow of water across the neighborhood. His sketches showed how runoff naturally traveled downhill and was redirected into the pond, where it could safely collect instead of spilling into streets and nearby properties. With every storm, the evidence became stronger and harder to ignore. The pond was doing far more than adding beauty to the landscape. It was quietly protecting the surrounding area from flooding. What the HOA had dismissed as an unnecessary feature was actually acting as a natural defense system, absorbing massive amounts of stormwater before it could create damage elsewhere in the community. Once he felt confident in his findings, the homeowner formally requested a meeting with the HOA board. When the day arrived, he came prepared with photographs, notes, diagrams, and detailed records of rainfall patterns. Calmly and professionally, he explained what he had discovered and described the important role the pond played in preventing flood damage throughout the neighborhood. At first, the board members remained unconvinced. Several representatives exchanged doubtful looks, while one HOA official, arms folded tightly, questioned nearly every conclusion he presented. They challenged his methods, criticized his observations, and seemed reluctant to accept the possibility that they had misunderstood the situation entirely. Despite their skepticism, the homeowner stayed composed and continued presenting the facts one by one. Then, almost unbelievably, the weather outside suddenly shifted. Heavy rain began crashing against the meeting room windows, accompanied by dark clouds and steady thunder overhead. Seeing the opportunity unfold in real time, the homeowner urged the board members to come outside and witness the pond during an active storm. Reluctantly, the HOA representatives followed him outside. What they saw immediately changed the tone of the entire meeting. Rainwater poured across the streets exactly as he had described. Yet instead of flooding the surrounding area, the runoff streamed directly toward the pond. The HOA parking lot, which normally would have been underwater during a storm this strong, remained mostly clear. Standing there in the rain, the board members watched the pond steadily absorb enormous amounts of water without overflowing. It became impossible to deny what was happening right in front of them. The pond was protecting the neighborhood, including HOA property itself, from serious flooding. Slowly, the skepticism on their faces disappeared, replaced with realization and embarrassment. They finally understood that the homeowner had been right all along. Not long afterward, the HOA officially withdrew its demand to drain the pond. What they once considered a violation was now recognized as an important solution for the entire community. The atmosphere between the homeowner and the board shifted dramatically. Instead of conflict and accusations, conversations became cooperative and respectful. HOA members even expressed appreciation for the homeowner's foresight and dedication to maintaining the pond over the years. Soon, discussions began about preserving the pond permanently and incorporating it into future neighborhood planning efforts. What had started as a bitter dispute transformed into a powerful example of cooperation between residents and local leadership. The pond, once threatened with destruction, became a symbol of environmental responsibility, thoughtful planning, and the importance of understanding nature before rushing to eliminate it. In the end, the peaceful stock pond remained exactly where it belonged, not only as a source of beauty, but as a vital part of the community itself.